everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Welcome, listeners, to the Parenting 411 podcast. This is Carol Maletta, your host. Today, we have a very special guest, and she brings an incredible blend of expertise, joy, and inspiration to our episode today. We are honored to have Dr. Lori Johnson-Vegas with us. Dr. Lori is the 2023 National Mother of the Year, recognized by American Mothers Incorporated. She teaches at Liberty University School of Business, and she's a seasoned human resources consultant and a personal and professional life coach with over 30 years of experience. Dr. Lori's accolades are numerous. She was Penn State's Achieving Woman of the Year in 2012, a certified master resiliency instructor for the Air Force, and the 2014 Military Spouse of the Year at TAFB. She's going to tell us what that is. Her expertise spans human resources, gelotology, can't wait to get into that, which is the study of laughter, and mental health. Today, we're going to dive into the power of joy and laughter in family life and how we can create, capture, and reflect on those hashtag smile, giggle, laugh moments that refresh and strengthen our relationships. So without further delay, I'm going to bring Dr. Lori Johnson-Vegas onto the show. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. This is an exciting time right now.
Yes.
I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful. I understand you're spending some time with your grandchild, right?
Yes, I am. First-time grandma, and actually I'm called Omalo. So we are here visiting our beautiful granddaughter.
Wonderful, wonderful. So why don't you just start off by telling us a little bit about your journey as a mom and then how you came to be recognized as the 2023 National Mother of the Year?
I still have a question mark on my forehead about all of that. No, I have motherhood has absolutely been one of the most joyous things in my life, and I've been blessed as a military child. I served in the military myself, and then became a military spouse. So have spent my life relocating, throughout Europe and Asia and the United States and all of that. And so being a mom, putting all of that in there as well is just an incredible, incredible thing. And so you talk about my journey in motherhood and coming to be the mom of the year. I have a question mark on my head about all of that because it's just been me being me. I am who I am. I truly, truly, and I know we'll talk about this, just believe that laughter and joy and those smile, giggle, laugh moments just make such a difference in life in general. And so I have had that philosophy my whole life, just kind of put into us by my parents, because again, relocating every 2 years when I was growing up, every 2 years we were someplace new. And my mom and dad made it a point to make sure that those experiences were joyful experiences, because you want to talk about stress? Moving every 2 years is very stressful. Moving every 2 years with young children, I can't even imagine. I think about my mom and what she did, because when we were growing up, obviously it's a little different now as a military family. When you're moving, one, they don't move military families as much anymore, but two, there's so many different things that help with that process, where back in the day there wasn't. And so my parents recognized the stress that it could bring to the family and just made sure that no matter where we were going in the process, from the time that we were leaving one place to get to the next, there was nothing but craziness and fun craziness that just made it a great experience. So as a military spouse, knowing that I was going to be doing the same thing with my family, with relocating, I just took a lot of the different things, old school things that my parents did with us, and incorporate that into our family life. And, in addition to that, some other things as a youth pastor, and I'm also a host family for the military's Home Away from Home program. So there are a lot of people out there, youth, military service members and spouses that call me mama.
Yeah.
That alone, it was a military spouse actually who, just saw the mentoring that I was doing, the mothering that I was doing with many of the spouses, and she
Mhm.
actually nominated me for Mother of the Year. So that's how that came to be, and from there, it's history.
Awesome. Awesome. So I was wondering, what was it like with friendships and all of that moving every 2 years? How did that affect you?
Yes. And I will tell you again, the difference between for when I was growing up and now was the only way that we could keep in touch with our friends was writing a letter, putting it in an envelope, and putting a stamp on it. Or if your mom and dad were nice every now and then, they would let you make those long distance phone calls because they were truly long distance phone calls when you were moving from Arkansas to Massachusetts or, wherever, and it had to be stateside because you
Mhm.
couldn't make long distance calls from, Turkey or
Mhm.
Portugal or
Mhm.
any of those places. That's how you kept in touch. And
Mhm.
if you look at the military lifestyle, especially back then, there were two types of military children. You were either truly an extrovert or truly an introvert. There was nothing in between.
Mm.
Many military children chose to isolate themselves because they realized that when you made friends, you were going to be leaving them in 2 years. And so
Wow.
the hurt that you would feel every time you had to leave people that you cared about was awful. And so the way to avoid that hurt, and there's a lot of research and studies from psychologists and psychiatrists now that show why military children did that. It was easier not to make friends and leave
Mhm.
than to
Mhm.
make friends and have to leave. Or
Mhm.
the other way around, as my parents would tell us, look, we are where we are. While we're here, we're going to make the best of it. Make friends, make good friends, and if the friendships are worth it when it's time to leave, you will remain friends. If it's not, you just won't. But you can't not enjoy yourself while you are where you are.
That
Um,
really is a good philosophy. And something else I wanted to ask you because you mentioned it. Tell us a little bit about the military home away from home. Is that what you called
Yes,
it? Yeah,
yes,
what is
home
that
away from
about?
home. So many of our young servicemen and women, 18, 19 years old, right out of high school, are
Mm,
pushed into adulthood. They enlist or
sure.
they get commissioned and immediately they have to become adults. And you have to think about it. We're putting these young men and women in charge of the safety of our country.
Mhm,
That's what they're there to do. And we've recognized that over the years that for some of them that's a little bit difficult without family. So when they're shipped off to another location and they're trying to learn adulthood at the same time as trying to serve our country and
mhm,
protect and defend our country,
mhm,
all of those things can become a little overwhelming. Now we've realized some of them will isolate themselves
mhm.
and they will be in their dorm rooms playing video games, and they often don't get out and just be with other people. So the academies have done a great job. For years they have what's called sponsor programs.
Okay.
So when a military member joins one of our service academies, the Air Force Academy, West Point, any of those, their freshman year they are assigned to a local family.
Okay.
And that family is their sponsor the 4 years that they are where they are. And they all
Mm,
keep in touch with those sponsors. They have great relationships. It's a place for them to go outside of the academy. They can go
mhm,
to a home and
mhm,
smell a real home cooked meal and sit on a couch,
mhm,
or lay on a floor with a rug and watch TV. And so what happened was we had I call her a young lady, and she's
mhm,
just a fabulous person. At Tinker Air Force Base, we had an unfortunate tragedy. It was on
mhm,
Christmas, where two airmen went out. It was a very bad ice storm, and they were bored in the dorms, and they decided they wanted to go out and travel on the road. And unfortunately, they got into an accident during the ice storm,
mm,
and they both lost their lives. And it was on Christmas Day. And
mm.
so for the commander to have to call those parents on Christmas Day with that type of news was an awful thing. So Pam,
Sure.
who started the program, she saw the commander at an event and said, "What can we as a community do to help you during times like this?"
Mm,
Commander was a graduate of the Air Force Academy and had gone through those 4 years of sponsorship, and in fact is still in touch with the family that sponsored him during his
Oh,
time in
okay.
the academy. They've gone to all of his promotions, his
That's
wedding.
wonderful.
And he said to Pam, he said, if we could do something like that for our young airmen, I think it would make a huge difference. So she started the Home Away from Home program with the help of many companies and organizations in the area to sponsor it. So she started it at Tinker Air Force Base, which is where we are. And it has had so much incredible success that she is now visiting other bases and helping them learn how to start the same program. So I've been with the program since the beginning. And
Hmm.
what we do is when our airmen arrive, first term, it's their first base assignment. They come out of basic training.
Hmm.
They go through tech school and then they're assigned to a base. And during their first assignment, we get to speak with them in a setting and we talk
Hmm.
about the Home Away from Home program. If they're interested, they can sign up right then and there. And what Pam does is I call her matchmaker, is based on the information they fill out. She puts them with the host family. So
Wonderful.
families who are in the community who are interested, they get vetted. There's a huge background check that's done on all of the families. And she meets with them. She goes into their home, make sure everything is okay. And then she just matches those airmen. So if there are airmen who like sports, she matches
Hmm.
the family that likes sports. If there are airmen who like to go fishing or hunting, she does the same thing. So we have been incredibly blessed to have more than 200 airmen who have come through our home over the last few years, where we have been
Wow.
their host family while they're at Tinker. And they come over. I will tell you, I have to keep my refrigerator full. So
Yes, I'm sure.
so I am constantly at the grocery store. They come
Hmm.
over, they get a home cooked meal. We lay on the floor with pillows and blankets and watch movies. We have game nights. We have Friday night game nights. And so most families have about one or two airmen, in their families. We have 16 that come on a regular basis to our home.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's a
So,
wonderful program. And they call me Mama Lori.
okay, all right. That's really good to hear. It's really, I think that's such a blessing for especially those
Yes,
young ones
yes.
that are possibly away from home for the first time and very young. So
And
that's
they deal with a
wonderful.
lot of depression and anxiety. And when they're in their dorm rooms alone and they don't have anybody to talk to, or they don't think they have anyone to talk to when they're going through these issues, it makes for not so good things. And
Right, right.
and we were seeing a rise in these situations. And this has made a huge, huge difference because they know at any point in time they have a family, why it's called Home Away from Home. They have a
Mhm.
family that they can come and spend time with and talk to when they're in those periods where they feel like life is too challenging.
Right. Well, I can imagine for those that come to your house, there's a lot of laughter. So
You
why don't we
better
just talk
believe it.
about in general how laughter can improve relationships in the family, especially between parent and children?
Oh my goodness. As a gelotologist, and that's what that is, it means it's someone who studies the impact of laughter and humor on the physical and mental well-being.
Hmm.
And I have tons of personal examples that I can use in my family for that, but it really does build relationships. And if you think about laughter and smiling, it is one of the most natural things that we can do. And people who go out and buy baby books, one of the first things that you want to fill out in that book is the baby's first smile, the
Hmm.
baby's first giggle, the baby's first laugh. And
Hmm.
those things they happen naturally. And laughter, joy, smiling is universal. When
Hmm.
you go to other countries, when you see other people and you make eye contact, the difference between if whether or not someone is going to decide and talk to you or respond to you is a smile. So it is a universal thing and it does build relationships. And it has shown through research and studies that in stressful times,
Hmm.
in challenging times, when some type of humor, appropriate humor, I always call it appropriate humor, especially at work, at
Right.
work, because that humor and that ability to tell a joke or to laugh or to say something funny just changes the entire atmosphere. It
Hmm.
you stress, you feel the tension in the room drop, and believe it or not, people become a lot more productive because their mind's clear once they've
Hmm.
had a good laugh and they're able to move forward from whatever it was that was challenging at the time. So
Now,
for families, it makes a difference.
now I know that you talk about families creating a list of embarrassing moments, and how do those contribute to building strong family connections?
Okay, so that is my thing. I love the list. And I will tell you, if my family was here, they would talk about the list. In fact, before we can talk about the list, we have to get permission from each other because some of those embarrassing moments are really embarrassing moments.
Right, right, right.
So we talk about it, and I will tell you, the list has made such a difference in our lives, and we've been doing the list since my oldest was the youngest was 4, so the oldest was 9. That's when we started the list. Because let me tell you, just like everybody else, your children do things where you go, I can't believe they just said that out loud, or I can't believe they just did that in public. And these things happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an incident that happened. We were on vacation in Ocean City, Maryland, where our oldest son locked him. He had a fetish with bathrooms. We don't know why, but no matter where we went, restaurant, any place, he had to use the bathroom. He just had to use the bathroom. And so he locked himself on accident in the bathroom of the hotel we were staying in. Couldn't get out. And so we had to call the hotel staff to come and get him out of the bathroom. And it was probably a good 45 minutes yes, that's how long it took before they finally got him out. And of course, we were embarrassed. I don't think he was embarrassed by it because I think he thought it was funny. And the fact that he thought it was funny, but we were mortified by it, made us talk about it. And the first thing we did when we got back home was we told everybody how he locked himself in the bathroom, and everybody was laughing about it.
Right,
And
right.
so my husband and I were like, okay, we were truly embarrassed about this, that our son locked himself in the bathroom and we had to have the hotel maintenance people come get him out. But everybody thinks this is really funny. So as we started thinking about it, all about the stress that we put on ourselves in the situation, and how the way we were responding to him on the other side of the door was probably stressing him as well. And we
True.
started thinking about all the times when our kids were in situations that we probably caused more stress for them than they did. And so we looked at that moment and we started looking at some other moments and realized, you know what? In the long run, these are actually kind of funny. At the time they don't that they're happening, it doesn't feel that way at all. But we started to think, if we change our perspective,
Right.
how we approach these stressful moments, we can change the outcome of many of them. So that it can be a horrible outcome, horrible results because of how we respond, or it can be something that we look at later on in life and say, when you get married, we're going to talk about this at your wedding.
That's funny. I
And
know
so
you.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I know you talk about laughter meditation.
Yes.
So, how can families implement laughter meditation in their daily
Yes.
lives?
And I will tell you, the same way people do meditation, and some people do they breathe in and they breathe out, they do things like that. Well, our laughter, our meditation is about laughter. We do things like ho ho ha ha. And we make giggle sounds and we do things. And what's funny is, as soon as you start to do it, all it takes is for one person to start to laugh, and then next thing you know, everybody's laughing because it's so contagious. And actually, when you're laughing, you're taking in oxygen. And that's what people don't realize. The same impact people have when they're just doing regular meditation by breathing in and out, or doing yoga, the same thing can happen with laughter. But actually, it's more, because when you're laughing and you're using your diaphragm and you go up and down, you are taking in a lot. And we've even learned, research has shown that students retain better when they are having fun, when they're learning.
Okay.
When they're laughing and learning and they're taking in that oxygen, the way the brain works, you actually retain so much more of what you're learning.
That's interesting.
Laughter meditation, you can start your day with it, especially with your young children. Once they realize the impact of laughter and they're at that point where they're laughing, you can start their day with laughter meditation. And there's different things that we do. Like I said, we do the ho ho ha ha. There's different things, but you can do that with them. The beginning of the day, it makes a difference on how they start their day. When they come home, you do some laughter meditation before you have dinner. And one of the things you do at dinner, many families say, tell us something good that happened to you today. What we used to say is, tell us something funny that happened today.
Mhm.
That there's a difference between something good that happened or something positive that happened to you today and something funny that happened to you today. Because when you tell the positive, people are happy, they smile. But as soon as you tell the funny thing, the whole table is laughing about the
Right.
funny thing. And here's what happens. It makes your children look for the funny things during the day. They
That's what I was
look for the
thinking.
humorous opportunities. They look for those laughter moments because they can't wait to get home and sit at the table and tell you about something that made them laugh during the day.
Absolutely. It definitely can change their outlook and just expect that there will be something.
Yes,
Yeah, and just to not take things too seriously. If something does crop up, so there is a problem, they maybe will approach it differently
completely different.
because they have that mindset.
Yes, yes. And the same way, laughter and humor and smiling and giggling, it's natural for us. So in the beginning, it's natural, but because of the way society is, we quickly unlearn those things because we are put into the negative. We're
Hmm.
put into the negative, whether we're being disciplined at school,
Hmm.
and I remember my son when he was in the fifth grade, I was so excited. He got a brand new teacher right out of college, first time teaching. Her approach in the classroom was to reward the positive and ignore the negative. So instead of normally, like if a child did something they weren't supposed to, you get put in a corner.
Hmm. Hmm.
Can't participate in something. She punishes the child. That's what
Hmm.
most teachers do. He or she will punish the child who did something wrong. Well, her
Right.
approach was instead of focusing on punishing the child who did something wrong, I'm going to reward all of those who did something right,
Hmm.
did
Hmm.
the right thing instead. So she had a completely different approach, and she used to make them say a positive pledge at the beginning of the day. I watched my son become a different person because of that positive pledge that they would do every day in the morning.
Hmm.
So I've seen firsthand, how this impacts, when you're laughing or you're being positive in that approach in a classroom versus being more disciplinarian or negative. And I will tell you that list doesn't matter how old your children are. You start that list, that family list when they're young. When
Hmm.
we get together with our children, when they visit during Thanksgiving or Christmas,
Right.
our list is not the same list that happened 20, 30 years ago
Okay.
because we're under the honor system. So when something happens to us, we have to call a family conference. We call a family conference and we say, okay, I was jogging down the street and I wasn't paying attention and I fell on the curb and everybody saw me. And when I fell, my pants fell down. Like,
Hmm.
and that's
Right.
literally, so we have to call each other. And then the family decides that's not list worthy. We're not putting that on our list.
Oh, really?
Yes. Or we go, oh my gosh, that just jumped to number five. Because we rank we rank the things on our list. Right now we have what's called a 1 through 15, and
Hmm.
the top 15 most embarrassing things that any of us have ever done. My husband holds the top five, I'm just saying.
Wow, wow. And what you're talking about in terms of the pledge and then
Yes.
also the exercises, I can see where that would be great for if the ride to school, if you drive your children to school or walking to the bus stop
Yeah.
or picking them up and coming back, walking back from the bus stop too. That I can definitely see where you can
Yeah. Just have
incorporate
the
that.
visual of what that's like in a car. The
Mm-hmm.
visual of everybody laughing in the car versus being stressed out because somebody left their lunch home or and we've seen enough of those movies and TikToks where everybody's stressed out in the car. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
stressed
Mm-hmm.
out. And so having the opposite of seeing them laughing in the car before they get dropped off at school, or like you said, walking to the bus stop, or first thing in the morning, laughing about those things, and not saying that you don't want to take away the seriousness of things that are going on because it's
Right.
important to make sure that our children understand that, but taking a lighter side to it than taking the opposite and getting everyone stressed out. It makes such a difference. But that
Yeah.
list, my children are older now, and I'm telling you, we have family meetings because something will happen to somebody, and we'll send a text message that says we need to have a family meeting, and we're like, uh-oh, what did they do? And then
Right.
we call the family meeting, and they say what they did, and we're like, you did what? Oh my gosh.
Do you want to connect your brand with families worldwide? Propics by the Parenting 411 is your ticket to success. With over 20,000 followers and a podcast reaching more than 25 countries, we're talking family relationships, mental health, and raising awesome kids. Our past guests include doctors, psychologists, other medical professionals, counselors, New York Times bestsellers, award-winning actors, and others. Propic amplifies your reach and boosts visibility to engage parents seeking the best for their families. Ready to join the big leagues? Visit Propic by p411.com and let's take your brand to new heights. Propic by p411.com. Amplify, boost, and drive your success in the parenting world. Yeah, I love it. And my family, particularly my mother's side of the family, she was one of 11, and whenever they got together, I mean, it was bound to be something. And she has a couple of brothers that are very good storytellers, and just their tone of voice, their inflection, and all of that stuff. It's very funny, but then also they're just able to create something funny out of whatever moment is happening. And so we're big on laughter. Definitely my mother's family, very big on laughter. So it just feels good when we go to Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner or whatever.
Absolutely.
It really feels good.
And you talk about those stressful times, and I remember my aunt, who was, other than my mother and my grandmother, 100% my mentor. In fact, my cousins all say that I'm a lot like her. I just had so much admiration for her. And when she passed away, it was just a dark time in our family.
Sure.
And during the funeral, while the pastor was doing a certain part of the funeral, he was talking about her. And as he talked about her, his false teeth came flying out. And we all sat there like, okay, what do we do? So we all kind of giggled a bit. But here's the difference that moment made. From the time the actual funeral ended to the burial, we were so focused on watching his teeth fall out that we were not in tears,
right?
Hurting. And then we got back and we were have the traditional dinner and all of that.
Sure.
Instead of everybody walking around sad and hugging, everybody was talking about his teeth flying out of his mouth during that funeral. That's what we remember from my aunt's funeral, is the pastor's teeth coming out and falling onto the floor from where he was. So, and then my own father, unfortunately, we lost him a few years ago, military, and he had a military honors funeral. When they were folding the flag, they had to do what's called a refold. If you don't fold the flag correctly, you have to undo it and refold it, because it's supposed to be perfect when you fold. And normally, under most circumstances, the first fold is the best fold and it works. They had to refold my dad's flag 9 times.
Oh, really? I've never even seen a refold once, like for my father and stepfather. I've never even seen.
They had to refold it 9 times. My husband, being a military guy, was furious. And we were all sitting there. And, I could tell people behind us were getting frustrated. As military people, you're like, you're trained to do this. You're honor guard. You're trained to do this. Just get it right the first time. So we could not stop
laughing?
Frustrated. No, we could not.
I was getting ready to say, okay.
No, we weren't laughing because we did not think it was funny when it was happening.
Yeah.
But what it made us do is that now whenever we do something and we have to do it again, like no matter where we are in the house or whatever, we go, refold.
Did they call that out
that's what they have to do. They say it. When they have to refold the flag, they say, refold, and then they all start over again and refold. So we heard refold 9 times.
Wow.
So now when we do something and it has to be done again or again and again, we go refold. So as much as we were frustrated at the time that was going on, we have found that moment in my dad's life.
Sure.
Because we always talk about what my dad was saying while it was happening.
Right.
It's like you have one job.
Right. Wow.
being able to take that moment, which was very hurtful at the time it was going,
Sure.
we were
Mm-hmm.
going through it. Now we look at it and we go, you know what? We can, this is even though that is what came to everybody's mind when they think about it,
Mm-hmm.
let's have a positive thought about that because it was so negative at the time that it was happening.
Right.
So we just say refold when we have to do things more than once. If, laundry or whatever it happens to be, you're doing something on the computer and you have to delete and start over, refold.
Yes, and I think that creating the kind of atmosphere that we've been talking about with the laughter and finding joy and being able to laugh together, laugh at and with each other in a respectful way, it creates that sort of environment where you were able to take that in stride. I mean, not in the moment. I know it was
Yes.
stressful and under the circumstances at a funeral, but you were able to take something from that later. And every time, I'm sure, whenever anyone says refold, you also remember your father
Yes.
as
And we
well.
don't want that to be a negative thought. And when you talk
Hmm.
about laughter, meditation, one of the things that I do, because this is my most requested workshop that I do, which is the Smile, Giggle, Laugh workshop. I have organizations all the time. Companies want me to come in and do that with their employees. Churches want me to come in and do it with their congregation. And so it is my most requested one that I do. And when we talk about the laughter meditation piece of it, I talk about the difference that your mind and body feel when you're going through a smile, giggle, laugh moment. So, for instance, I always have the audience close their eyes, and I
Hmm.
always say, think of something that made you smile. And their eyes are closed, and I can see them. And you
Right.
see people, they just kind of have
Hmm.
a smile on their face, just relaxed.
Hmm.
And then I make them open their eyes, and they look around. I say, okay, now I want you to close your eyes again, and I want you to think of something that makes you giggle. And so
Mm.
I say, okay, one, two, three, go. And you'll see their shoulders start to move a little bit and their head starts to move a little bit when they start to, so they're recalling something that made them giggle, and you can literally see their shoulders are moving up and down some, their head is nodding a little bit, their smile is a little bit bigger. So then
Hmm.
I make them open their eyes and I say, okay, I want you to close your eyes again, but this time I want you to think of something that made you laugh. Just think of it. That's all I want you to do is think of something that made you laugh. So then I make them close their eyes. I say, okay, on three. And I'm not kidding. This is what happens throughout the entire audience. You see their hands go to their knees, their forward, their bodies are moving, their heads are moving, and you might not hear a sound. Every now and then you might hear somebody laughing, but you don't always hear it because they think they have to be quiet because I didn't say do anything out loud.
Right,
So
right.
many of them think they have to be quiet in the process, but
Hmm.
without a word coming out of their mouth, their body shows laughter.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that meditation and you can have that learned behavior when you're in those stressful times. And I have people call me all the time after they've gone through my workshops and
Hmm.
they call me and tell me smile, giggle, laugh got them through a situation.
Hmm.
Because they were
Hmm.
able to close their eyes and, just again, you say, what did you see when I asked you to smile? Oh, I was imagining my granddaughter, or I was imagining when I was in the backyard when we first got our puppy. So it's like
Hmm.
the warm moments make them smile. And then
Hmm.
I ask them, well, what was it what were you thinking about that made you giggle? And they'll share
Hmm.
what made them giggle, and then they'll share what made them laugh. But it's what your body goes through physically when you go from that smiling moment to that giggling moment to the laughing moment. Now, there's sometimes when you don't need to go all the way to the laughing, whatever
Right.
situation you're in, that smile meditation helps get you through it. But I
Hmm.
tell you, the laughter's amazing.
Oh yes, absolutely. And something else that I think is really special, or at least I noticed it with my own children, is there's just a certain feeling of affirmation or empowerment that they feel when they're able to make us laugh.
Oh, that's the key. And
Hmm.
if you look at the research that's done with toddlers, and they
Hmm.
show when you repeat the behavior of the toddler
Yes.
and they laugh, they like to do something else to make you repeat it, something else that they're doing, and they're laughing. One of the things I do during the workshop too is I will play a sound of a child laughing.
Mm. Oh, and I love
Yeah.
that. I
And that's
love
exactly what
hearing little
happens
kids laugh.
and do you know children laugh on an average of 400 times a day? How many
Mm.
times do you think adults laugh a day?
Oh, probably three.
35.
Peep,
About 35.
really?
Yes. But think of it, 400 to 35?
That's still right. That is quite a drop.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. 400 to 35. That's not good. That's
Right.
not good.
Of
And
course.
I talk about the stressors of life, and one of the things I tell people is stressed is desserts spelled backwards.
Yes. Oh, this is really funny. I literally just did a workshop an hour ago, and
Mhm.
that was my last slide, big pile of a big banana split with all the fixings, and that was the quote. That is so funny that you are
Yes.
bringing that up. My
Yes.
goodness. Yes, I was talking about handling stress with teens, helping them cope. So that's so
And it
funny.
is. Stress
Mhm.
is, and so we can choose to have some dessert or we can choose to be stressed. And so it's all in perspective on how we're looking at the situations that we're in. And again, even though smiling, giggling, and laughing are innate behaviors, we can unlearn them. And we unlearn them because our parents get stressed.
Mhm.
And sometimes when we start to giggle at something and our parents look at us like it's not funny, stop laughing, it's not funny. And so sometimes for some children, that makes them do it sarcastically even more because we
Mhm.
say it's not funny. So sometimes we have to go with the flow. And even in those moments where it really isn't funny, we can guide that smile, giggle, laugh moment. We
Mhm.
can guide it as parents,
Mhm.
so our children know inappropriate versus inappropriate times to be humorous. So instead of yelling and screaming at them because their laughter or what they said was inappropriate at the time, we can guide that, and
Mhm.
talk to them about that. Because there are times when, again, and it's all part of the list, when your children do and say something and you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened, or I can't believe they just
Right.
and those times are many.
Right. Of course.
They are many.
Mhm. What resources or advice would you have to recommend parents bring more joy and laughter into their homes?
Okay, so a couple of different things. One, there are the best dad joke books out there on Amazon. All you have to do is go to Amazon and type in dad jokes. For your preteens and your teens, those are the best ones because those are the ones that make them roll their eyes.
Mhm. Mhm.
When dads tell those dad jokes. And so I always recommend as parents, get those joke books, memorize those jokes, have a joke of the day at the table.
That's a good
Keep
idea.
joke books around your house. The bathroom is the best place for joke books. I'm just saying. And so if you keep joke books around your house and give your children an opportunity, clean joke books to
Sure.
read joke books. And so when you're at the dinner table or you're having breakfast and everybody has to tell a joke of the day, where each family member has to tell some type of a joke of the day, you can't lose with that. You
Right.
can't lose because everyone remembers that. So I definitely recommend getting joke books, and I will share with you. My life changed. I used to keep a joke book at my bedside, on my nightstand.
Okay.
Uh, so I would do my devotions,
Yep.
and the last thing I would do after my devotions before going to sleep is read a joke.
Okay.
I used to have nightmares every now and then.
Mm.
I used to have bad dreams every now and then because of whatever I watched on TV or what you literally, your mind plays over and over again, whatever the
Mhm.
last thing was that was impactful before you went to sleep. When I started doing that, I sleep through the night.
Okay.
Before I get out of bed in the morning, I would read a joke or a humor story. It doesn't always have to be a joke, and I'm the worst punchline person. So I tell people all the time when they want me to come in and do my humor workshops, I say,
Right.
"You understand, I'm not a comedian. So I'm not going to be there telling jokes and making people laugh. I'm the worst at that, but I can help people find ways to do that if they're good at it. In the morning, I read either a humor story or a joke before I get out of bed. Well, now in the past 2 years, what's happened is reels.
Oh, well, okay. I was going to ask you about that because that's something that I do with my
So
sons. They send me reels and I send them reels.
I
Yeah.
am all about the reels. And in fact,
Yes.
my husband wishes that I wasn't. because he goes to sleep a lot of times before I do because he has to get up early in the morning. And
Same.
he tries so hard because I'm trying not to laugh out loud and wake him up. I will pound my hand on the bed or my foot on the bed because my body can't contain not laughing out loud. So my body feels it. And there are times when he wakes up and he'll go, Lori, for real? And I'm like, yeah, for real.
For reals.
Yeah. So I am all about reels when I wake up and reels when I go to sleep because when I'm getting out of the bed and I'm laughing, that's so much better than when I used to get up and I wake up and all I would be thinking about was what I have to do during the day. And then I would roll over and I'd take a deep breath and sigh and just go, okay, Lori, get up. And I would get up and get out of the bed, and you just go on with your day because it's just a day. But
Right.
now I am laughing when I get out of the bed, and I can't wait to either show or send or tell someone about a reel that I saw that was hilarious. And I stay on those. I don't do all the mean ones that are
Oh,
out there.
sure. Right.
Yeah, no, I specifically find the funny ones. And first thing when I wake up, last thing before I go to bed. Huge
Yeah.
difference.
And I love it. What's funny about the good ones is that like no matter how many times you see it, there's just some the best ones are those that like they might come on my feed every 2 years, maybe sometimes. And I'm like, that is still funny. Like that
Well,
is still
you gotta get that algorithm going. Once you get that algorithm going, they just show up. And so here's the other thing, and I tell people, think about funniest home videos. America's Funniest Home Videos has been around for a long time.
true.
And why do we like that show? Because it makes us laugh.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
makes us laugh. And I remember when that show first came out, and I would go to work and say, did you guys see America's Funniest Home Videos last night? Did you see when that guy? And you know what? We would be at work laughing about America's Funniest Home Videos, and it would feel like such a great, like we were all getting along at the time, even though if you had coworkers that you didn't like so much. But when you're talking about things that make you laugh, it just takes all of that away. And there's two slides that I use
Mhm.
in my presentation that talks about how relationships are impacted by
Mhm.
humor and the
Sure.
difference that it makes during those difficult and challenging times. And I'm a mental health first aid instructor for the
Mhm.
mental well-being for behavioral health. And we talk about that in the class when we talk about self-care, as it just impacts you in such a way. And people don't realize the endorphins that flow
Mhm. Mhm.
versus the cortisol or the stress hormone. When you're stressed, you have bad chemicals that flow through your body. And this is evidence-based information. This isn't made up.
Yes.
There are
Yes.
certain chemicals that are released in your body when you're stressed. And when you are laughing and your mind is in a good place, there are other chemicals that are released in your body. And
Mhm.
the chemicals that are released in your body when you are happy versus when you are sad, you absolutely want the happy chemicals released in your body.
Yes. Yeah. Now you have me thinking about some some moments that made me laugh.
Yes, it's great.
Oh my goodness. But
It can be behavior that is continuous. It's us as society who takes away that innate behavior to smile, giggle, and laugh. We remove that from ourselves. We remove that from our children. We remove it from our work environment. We remove it from ourselves. We don't have to.
it's
We have
because it's
choices.
treated as silliness,
Yes.
and a sign of maturity,
Right. And that's
right?
when we talk about appropriate versus inappropriate.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Well, but
that
the
it's
thing is, I think that kind of that funny and being silly, it's just treated that way. Sometimes it's not inappropriate, but it's just when we start adulting and people kind of want to regulate what you do here in this space and what you do in that space, it kind of takes away the humor.
yes, yes. And that's unfortunate. And it's because, and if you think, again, a psychologist will tell you, and many counselors or therapists will tell you that when people are in those situations where they don't know what to do, laughter becomes the thing to help them get through it. And so for some, it's not intentional, it's natural.
Right.
And so it just happens. So when you have those people who are laughing in a serious moment and you're looking at them like, I can't believe you're laughing at this. This is serious right now. That's because that is what came out of them. Where some people might scream or cry, their ability to handle the situation that they're in, their go-to is to laugh. And so it just, again, someone else might cry, someone else might scream, but someone else might laugh to get them through that situation.
Yeah, and that happened to us once. I was driving with my sons. They were probably about 10, 10, no older than that. And someone hit us in the back, like at a stop light, and someone ran into the back of our car. We had this big, huge SUV. It didn't really harm us or anything like that. But of course, you get out and look at it and everything. I think the man was nervous, and he was like not laughing, but like smiling, like this, as we're going to take a look at it, see if there's any damage, if we need to exchange information. When, of course, it ended up being fine. I just didn't really feel like there was any much damage to my car, so we just went our separate ways. But when we got back in the car, my son was like, "Well, why was he laughing? He hit us he hit us in the back of the car, and why did he think that was funny?" And I said, "I don't think he thought it was funny. I think he
Coping,
was really nervous." Yes.
coping.
Mhm.
And for
Yes.
some, that is their coping mechanism.
And especially when you run into somebody in the back, because you're automatically at fault.
Mhm.
And no matter if it's a major or minor. And so I guess I maybe anticipated I was going to be really upset or something. I don't know. But yes, I definitely thought he was nervous.
Yes, and that's what happens. Again, they're not trying to be offensive. They're not trying to offend anyone. They're not trying to, not see the seriousness of the situation. That's
Hmm.
their innate coping, ability or mechanism is to laugh, because again of the type of chemicals that get released in our body,
Right.
they're a lot more calm, able to handle the situation better because of what's being released versus if they got stressed and that adrenaline started to pump, and then you've got those negative chemicals going through, and so it's a coping mechanism for people. And that's why when you talked about maturity, talked about silliness, that some people see it that way, and for the person who's going through it, it might not be silliness or maturity. It might be that coping mechanism
Exactly.
in those moments.
Hmm. Well, you've definitely given us a lot to think about and laugh about today. So I hope I hope our listeners will take a moment if they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or stressed about what they have to do for their family. Maybe they're listening on the job. I hope they'll take a moment to smile, giggle, and laugh. Go
Yes,
through that.
please. It's
Go
so
through that exercise. Where can listeners follow you on social media, and also share your website if you have some interesting information there for them to grab?
Yes, you can find everything at Nervageous, Facebook, Instagram, X, Nervageous, and it's Nervegeous, Nervageous, and that is my word, and I put that word in place because for years I was doing a lot of speaking engagements talking about having the nerve to do things, and
Sure.
many times we don't do things because we're afraid and we're
Mhm.
too nervous. And so if we, and I used to say, women who wear bikinis don't always have the best figures, they just have the nerve. And
Right.
there's a lot of sayings that I used to use about people that have the nerve, to go out of the house in flip flops. Back in the day, you just didn't do that, or curlers
Right.
in your hair. And I would say these people have a lot of nerve to be able to do that. And then one year, I was asked to speak at Women's History Month on one of the military installations, and
Mhm.
they were doing something on being courageous as women. Women who are courageous in the military, women who are courageous as military spouses, and so as I was putting it together and knowing that they wanted me to come and speak on the nerve because they'd heard that before, but I knew their theme was courageous. And I just started thinking, how can I really put those two together so that I am giving a really good talk that they're going to feel what I'm bringing to the table and what their
Sure.
theme is. And so I sat down and I thought about it and I said, you know what? When you make decisions, one, you got to have the nerve to make the decision
Mhm.
because a lot of times we know we need to do something, but we're afraid and we're nervous. So getting the nerve to make the decision is one thing, but getting the courage up to act on that decision is a whole different thing.
Mhm.
So I thought about what it means to be courageous. And I spent a lot of time researching courageous people, and because I always try to be relevant when I go and speak.
Sure.
And
Mhm.
I looked at all the things that courageous people were doing, and it was all about their decision making, meaning acting on their decision. I put that word together. I said, okay, nervageous is having the nerve to make the decision, first of all, and being courageous enough to act on that decision. So I created that word a few years ago. It's a registered trademark. I use
Mhm.
it all the time, and that's how
Good.
you can find me on social media. And I do
Wonderful.
the same way I do Smile, Giggle, Laugh. There are companies that have me come in and speak on what it means to be nervageous. Because in fact, I'm doing a single mothers event next month in Delaware, and they want me to come and talk about being nervageous. And so
Awesome.
I've got t-shirts and hats and different things that I give out to people when I go and speak. But that's how you can find me. It's all about being nervageous.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining.
Oh,
And to our
what a pleasure.
listeners, I hope you will share this with your friends, this episode with your friends, because we can all use a little laughter in our lives. And mothersworkthebook.com, I'm offering my book free along with some goodies on parent-child communication. It's called Do You Hear Me? Staying Connected in the Chaos. And you get some other goodies along with the book. So head on over to mothersworkthebook.com. And for the rest of the day, try to insert a little laughter. And always remember, it's never too late to be the parent you want to be. Thanks a lot, and I can't wait to speak to you all next time. We bring you this episode for the purpose of information and entertainment only. It is not the intent or purpose of the Parenting 411 podcast or Carol Maletta to provide an exhaustive reference or guide on all aspects of parenting, childcare, and family life. You are strongly encouraged to read all available information, consult medical or other appropriate professionals, and pursue all reasonable means to learn as much as possible about parenting to complement what you gain here, and then tailor the information to meet your individual needs. Yes, parenting is a serious matter, though it is not an exact science. The context and insights offered in this and every episode represent an account of knowledge and personal experiences of the host and any featured guests for the viewers' and listeners' information and consideration. The host and guests do not guarantee to our viewers or listeners any specific parenting outcomes from this episode or taking actions described here.